Why do we assume that danger fades with age, that the threats of childhood somehow lose their power as we grow older, wiser, and seemingly stronger, when history and biology repeatedly warn us otherwise? This question matters because measles, a disease many adults remember as a harmless childhood rite of passage, does not respect nostalgia or memory, and it does not soften its impact simply because years have passed. In adults, measles often arrives with greater force, deeper complications, and consequences that linger far beyond the fever and rash, challenging the comforting myth that maturity equals immunity. The human body changes over time, and with those changes come vulnerabilities that are easy to ignore until they are tested, sometimes painfully. The immune system that once responded quickly can become slower, less coordinated, and more prone to overreaction, turning a preventable infection into a serious medical crisis. This is why understanding measles in adulthood is not about fear, but about awareness, responsibility, and respect for science. Many adults believe they are protected because they were vaccinated long ago, or because they survived measles as children. Yet protection is not always permanent, and memory is not immunity. Antibody levels can wane, records can be lost, and assumptions can replace verification, leaving gaps that the virus is eager to exploit. Measles is among the most contagious diseases known, spreading through the air with astonishing efficiency, lingering in spaces long after an infected person has left. For adults, exposure often happens quietly, at work, during travel, or in everyday social interactions, and by the time symptoms appear, the virus has already taken hold. What begins with fatigue and fever can escalate rapidly, as the body mounts an intense inflammatory response that affects not only the skin, but the lungs, brain, and other vital organs. Pneumonia remains one of the leading causes of measles-related deaths in adults, while encephalitis, though rarer, can alter cognition, mobility, and quality of life forever. The biological reasons behind this severity are complex but important. As people age, immune regulation becomes less precise, sometimes responding too weakly to eliminate threats quickly, or too aggressively, causing collateral damage to healthy tissue. Chronic stress, underlying conditions, and environmental exposures further shape this response, stacking risk upon risk in ways that are invisible until illness strikes. Adults are also more likely to delay seeking care, minimizing early symptoms and pushing through discomfort, which allows the virus additional time to spread internally. This delay can be the quiet turning point where a manageable infection becomes a hospitalization, a statistic, or a life-altering event. In this space between assumption and action, uncertainty grows, and it is here that suspense quietly builds, because the outcome is no longer guaranteed, even in modern healthcare systems. Global health leaders have long warned that complacency is the ally of infectious disease, and voices like Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus consistently remind the world that prevention must come before regret. His guidance emphasizes that vaccination is not merely a childhood ritual, but a lifelong shield that must be maintained, evaluated, and respected. In adults, this means knowing vaccination status, seeking boosters when recommended, and understanding that community protection weakens when individuals opt out or assume they are safe without evidence. Measles outbreaks among adults are not accidents. They are signals, pointing to gaps in awareness, access, and trust. They reveal how quickly progress can reverse when prevention is neglected, and how interconnected health truly is in a globalized world. As this reality unfolds, the central lesson becomes clear, even if it is uncomfortable. Measles is not a relic of the past, and adulthood is not armor. The virus waits patiently for opportunity, and opportunity is created by silence, delay, and disbelief. Recognizing this truth is not about assigning blame, but about reclaiming agency, choosing informed action over assumption, and understanding that health is a dynamic state requiring ongoing attention. When adults take measles seriously, they protect not only themselves but families, workplaces, and communities, reducing the burden on health systems and preserving the fragile gains made through decades of public health effort. Awareness is the first step, and in that awareness lies the power to prevent suffering before it begins. This understanding invites reflection on how quickly certainty can crumble, how a single overlooked risk can redraw the future, and how preparedness is often invisible until it is absent. Adults carry responsibilities that extend beyond personal comfort, including the duty to model preventive behavior for younger generations who learn more from action than instruction. By staying informed, verifying immunity, and responding early to symptoms, individuals transform knowledge into protection, reducing fear through foresight rather than denial. Public health succeeds not only through policies and clinics, but through millions of quiet decisions made before crisis arrives, decisions that collectively determine whether outbreaks fade or flourish. In recognizing measles as a shared challenge rather than a private inconvenience, adults help close the gap between science and everyday life, ensuring that progress is not temporary, but sustained through vigilance, humility, and care. This awareness plants resilience, reminding society that prevention is an active choice renewed repeatedly, not a promise made once and forgotten. It asks adults to pause, assess, and act before complacency decides for them, protecting health with intention and clarity. Such foresight strengthens communities, honors science, and preserves lives that might otherwise be quietly lost through informed collective responsibility worldwide. As the story deepens, the focus shifts from what measles is to why its impact on adults can escalate so quickly, sometimes with alarming speed that catches even experienced clinicians off guard. In adulthood, the body carries layers of history, exposures, stresses, and adaptations that quietly shape how illness unfolds. The immune system is no longer a simple shield, but a complex orchestra that must balance precision with restraint, and measles disrupts that balance by suppressing immune memory while provoking widespread inflammation. This paradox weakens defenses against other infections at the very moment the body needs them most, explaining why secondary bacterial pneumonia is so common and so dangerous in adults. The lungs, already shaped by years of pollution, smoking, occupational hazards, or chronic conditions, become vulnerable terrain where the virus can trigger respiratory failure. The brain, protected by delicate barriers, can become inflamed, leading to encephalitis that alters consciousness, memory, and movement in ways that may never fully reverse. These outcomes are not theoretical. They are documented realities that unfold quietly behind hospital doors when prevention fails. Adults often underestimate early symptoms, attributing fever to exhaustion or rash to allergy, and this delay creates a window where the virus advances unchecked. Suspense builds here, not in dramatic flashes, but in the silent progression of viral replication, as hours turn into days and the line between recovery and crisis narrows. At this midpoint, the question is no longer whether measles can be serious, but whether society will recognize the warning signs before irreversible harm occurs. Global health guidance repeatedly emphasizes early awareness, because timing can determine outcomes, and Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has spoken about the cost of waiting until hospitals are full before acting. His perspective reflects a broader truth. Prevention is most powerful when it feels almost boring, when nothing happens because risk was addressed in advance. Yet boredom is rarely celebrated, and urgency often arrives only after loss. Adult measles cases reveal how fragile confidence can be when confronted with biology, and how quickly routines collapse under the weight of unexpected illness. Hospitalization disrupts livelihoods, families, and mental health, extending the impact far beyond physical symptoms. Even after recovery, adults may experience prolonged fatigue, weakened immunity, or neurological effects that reshape daily life, challenging the assumption that survival equals full restoration. The economic and emotional costs ripple outward, affecting workplaces and communities that may already be strained. This is why early prevention matters so deeply, because it protects not only individuals, but systems that depend on collective health. Vaccination remains the cornerstone of that prevention, yet misunderstandings persist about its relevance in adulthood. Some adults assume childhood doses guarantee lifelong protection, while others lack access to records that confirm their status, creating uncertainty that can be resolved with a simple check, but too often is ignored. In outbreaks, these uncertainties become vulnerabilities, and the virus exploits them without hesitation. The suspense intensifies as outbreaks spread, revealing how interconnected lives truly are, how one decision can influence many outcomes. Travel, migration, and urban density mean that measles can cross borders effortlessly, reminding the world that health security is shared, not isolated. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus often highlights solidarity as a public health tool, because viruses thrive on division and misinformation. When adults take responsibility for their immunity, they strengthen a collective barrier that protects infants, the immunocompromised, and those who cannot be vaccinated. This responsibility is not about fear, but foresight, recognizing that the absence of disease is an achievement earned through consistency, not chance. In the quiet tension between knowledge and action, the future is decided, sometimes without anyone noticing until the outcome is irreversible. Understanding the biological reasons behind adult severity transforms concern into clarity, replacing vague anxiety with informed resolve. It empowers adults to seek vaccination, respond early to symptoms, and support policies that prioritize prevention over reaction. As the narrative moves forward, the lesson sharpens. Measles severity in adults is not an anomaly, but a predictable consequence of neglecting age-related risk. The virus does not change its nature, but the host does, and that change demands respect. By acknowledging this reality, adults can interrupt the cycle of outbreak and regret, choosing preparation over panic. This choice, repeated across communities, turns suspense into stability, ensuring that the story of measles is one of prevention, not recurrence, and that health is protected through deliberate, informed action sustained over time. In this extended view, adult health becomes a reflection of cumulative choices, where prevention is woven into daily life rather than reserved for emergencies alone. Education, access, and trust form the triad that sustains immunity across decades, and when one weakens, risk rises quietly. Communities that invest in clear communication and routine immunization checks reduce uncertainty before outbreaks ignite. Adults who engage with healthcare proactively transform from passive recipients into active stewards of well-being. This mindset honors science without drama and values consistency over crisis. As awareness spreads, fear recedes, replaced by confidence grounded in evidence. The path forward is neither complex nor abstract. It is practical, repeatable, and shared. By acting before exposure, adults protect futures that are still unwritten, ensuring resilience remains stronger than any virus that seeks opportunity. This sustained commitment reinforces public health gains, preserves trust, and demonstrates that vigilance today prevents suffering tomorrow, quietly strengthening societies through choices that prioritize prevention, cooperation, and respect for collective responsibility. Across generations worldwide, the final reflection brings the message into sharper focus, where knowledge becomes responsibility and awareness transforms into action that shapes outcomes before danger has a chance to unfold. Measles in adults is not simply a medical issue, but a mirror that reflects how societies value prevention, memory, and shared duty. When adults understand that age does not dilute risk, they begin to see health not as a fixed state, but as a living process requiring attention across a lifetime. The body carries experience, but it also carries exposure, and viruses exploit every moment when vigilance fades. This is why prevention must happen before exposure, not after symptoms appear. Because once measles takes hold, medicine can only manage damage rather than erase it. Vaccination stands as one of the most effective tools ever developed, yet its power depends entirely on timely use and sustained trust. Adults who verify their immunity, seek medical guidance, and stay informed reduce uncertainty, not only for themselves, but for everyone around them. This collective protection is fragile, strengthened by participation, and weakened by neglect. And it reminds us that individual choices quietly shape public outcomes. Dr. Tedros Adhanom Ghebreyesus has repeatedly emphasized that strong prevention strategies are built long before outbreaks make headlines, rooted in education, access, and global cooperation. His message resonates because it acknowledges a simple truth. Waiting for visible crisis is already too late. In adulthood, The consequences of waiting are heavier, as responsibilities multiply and recovery becomes more complex. Severe illness can interrupt careers, strain families, and alter life trajectories in ways that are rarely discussed but deeply felt. Measles complications, such as pneumonia and encephalitis, are not abstract risks. They are realities that can redefine independence and identity. This awareness creates a quiet urgency, urging adults to act while action is still simple. The suspense that once surrounded uncertainty now resolves into clarity, revealing that prevention is not dramatic but decisive. It happens in clinics, conversations, and personal records, in moments that feel ordinary but carry extraordinary impact. When adults take measles seriously, they challenge the illusion that some threats belong only to the past or to others. They acknowledge that health security is shared across ages, borders, and generations, and that protecting one protects many. This understanding reshapes how societies approach public health, shifting focus from reaction to resilience. Education plays a critical role here, replacing myths with evidence and fear with foresight. Adults who understand why measles is more dangerous later in life are more likely to recognize early symptoms, seek care promptly, and support preventive policies. This creates a feedback loop where awareness strengthens outcomes and outcomes reinforce trust. The path forward does not require extraordinary sacrifice, only consistent attention and respect for science. Checking vaccination status, following public health guidance, and responding early to illness are small actions with immense cumulative power. In a world where misinformation spreads quickly, choosing evidence becomes an act of protection. The lesson of adult measles is ultimately a lesson about humility, recognizing that progress must be maintained, not assumed. Diseases do not disappear because we stop thinking about them. They retreat only when prevention remains strong. Adults stand at a critical intersection, capable of bridging past successes with future safety through informed choices. This responsibility is not a burden, but an opportunity to model care, foresight, and accountability. When adults act, they reinforce a culture where prevention is valued and health is protected proactively rather than defended reactively. The story does not end with fear, but with empowerment, reminding everyone that serious risks can be reduced through knowledge applied in time. Measles serves as a warning and a guide, showing what happens when vigilance weakens and what is possible when it is restored. By listening to global health leadership, respecting biological reality, and acting before exposure, adults help write a different ending, one defined by prevention rather than regret. This ending is quiet, stable, and strong, built on everyday decisions that collectively safeguard communities. It is a future where outbreaks lose momentum, hospitals remain prepared rather than overwhelmed, and health systems can focus on growth instead of crisis. That future begins with awareness today and action that does not wait for urgency to force it. If you are benefiting from our topics, please subscribe, like, and turn on the bell notification so you can see our new videos early.